It was past midnight when I got the call. I remember the voice on the other end, low, shaking, and urgent. You need to come down here. Now, we found something in the grave. The rain was soft but cold that night. Louisiana cold, the kind that seeps into your bones and never leaves. I didn't expect much. Maybe vandals, maybe drugs. What I found was a grave half dug and a camera. Still warm, still on. My name is Mark Boudreau. I've been with the St. Martin Parish Sheriff's Department for 18 years. You've probably never heard of it. Quiet place, nothing special. A few DUIs, a meth lab every now and then, and a lot of silence. But this one doesn't belong on any report. It was October 12th, 2022, a Wednesday. I remember because the Saints had lost that Sunday. And the guys at the station wouldn't shut up about it. The call came in just after 1 a.m. Dispatch said it was Ernest Delacroix, one of the cemetery groundskeepers at LaRue Hollow. I'd known Ernest since high school. Steady hands, not the type to get rattled. But that night, his voice sounded like something had broken in him. Mark, I don't know what the hell this is. You gotta come see it. I ain't touching it no more. 15 minutes later, I pulled up to the cemetery. The place was soaked in fog. My boots sunk half an inch into the mud with every step. Ernest stood near an open grave, shovel still in the dirt, hands trembling under the brim of his cap. There was a coffin, partially unearthed. The lid was off. No body, just a black GoPro Hero 8, resting right in the center. No blood, no bones, just dirt, old wood, and that damn camera. I asked him if he opened it. No, sir, he whispered. I felt something, like a pull. Started digging like I was sleepwalking. When I saw the box, I thought it was a mistake. But it weren't empty. Not first. The camera was looking at me. I bagged the camera for evidence. But honestly, I didn't know what to make of it. No ID tags. No name on the grave. Just some overgrown plot near the edge of the property. The kind of place that should have stayed buried. I brought the camera back to the station. No sign of tampering. Battery at 23%. A single video file, 0001.mp4. Timestamped exactly 2 weeks earlier. I sat alone in the evidence room. Door looked. Fluorescent light buzzing above me. I pressed play. The footage started in complete darkness. Breathing. Shallow, fast. Then frantic. A man's voice panicked. Hello. Hello. Please, somebody. Get me out of here. The camera jostled, hitting wooden panels. Thuds. Nails creaking. The camera's wide-angle lens caught glimpses. Dark oak walls inches from the lens. A writhing hand. A face twisted in terror. Dirt fell through a crack in the lid above. He was in a coffin, buried alive. He screamed, pounded against the lid. The mic clipped from how loud he was. Then something changed. The man froze. He whispered, "Who's there?" I leaned closer. My finger hovered over pause, but I couldn't look away. A low rasping sound emerged from the dark. Not human, wet, like something breathing through water. The man's eyes widened. He twisted, aiming the camera toward the foot of the coffin. The view was shaky, but for a second, just a second, I saw something move. A hand, long, thin, pale like uncooked meat. The nails were black. What the hell is that? The man kicked at it, screaming, the camera tumbling to his side. Dirt continued falling, now thicker, like the coffin was being covered more rapidly. Then silence, except for the breathing. His voice came again, quiet this time. If someone finds this, please, don't watch it. It doesn't want you to know. It feeds on it. Curiosity. Attention. The more you see, the closer it gets. He started crying. And then, he looked directly into the lens. His eyes were wrong, fully dilated, tears running down mud-streaked cheeks. And he whispered, "It knows you're watching." The screen glitched. Static. Then black. I sat there for a full minute before I realized I wasn't breathing. My hands were clenched tight around the mouse, my knuckles white. I watched again, and again, trying to catch more detail, trying to see if it was some sick prank, or performance art, or something. But that hand, that sound, that whisper, they weren't acting. And what chilled me most, every time I rewatched it, the man's last look into the camera changed slightly. At first, I thought I was imagining it. But by the third time, his eyes weren't just staring into the lens. They were looking at me. I didn't sleep that night. I left the station just before 3 a.m., but the image of that man's wide eyes and that whisper followed me all the way home. My house, usually a quiet escape, felt off, the air heavier, as if the walls were listening. I locked the GoPro in an evidence locker, sealed it with tape, and logged everything. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had followed me home. I told myself it was just adrenaline. I was wrong. The next morning, I returned to the station early. I wanted to show the footage to Captain Sayers, get a second pair of eyes on it. Maybe I had imagined some of it. But when I opened the evidence locker, I froze. The tape was peeled back. The locker was slightly ajar. And the GoPro, it was on. I know what you're thinking. Maybe I didn't turn it off properly. Maybe I forgot. But I checked the logs. I had removed the battery before locking it away. Yet now, the red recording light blinked at me slowly, like a heartbeat. I picked it up, staring at the screen. A new file had appeared. 0002. Mepe Patru. Timestamp just 4 hours earlier. My fingers hesitated over the play button. Then I pressed it. At first, it was just blackness. Then, the man's face appeared again. Daniel LeBlanc. Pale. Eyes sunken. Breathing shallow. Hello again. I paused it immediately. That wasn't on the first video. He looked into the lens, lips curling slightly. I told you not to watch. The air in the room turned cold. I hit play again, forcing myself to watch. Daniel lay in the coffin. His movements were slower now. His breathing off. Too calm. He wasn't panicking anymore. He was whispering, but not in English. Not in French either. The words sounded like wet stone being scraped across bone. Crooked syllables that didn't belong in any human throat. Ghana, Seakulf, Durham, Isla, Rithak. The way he said them made my skin crawl. His eyes were wide open, but no longer fearful. Just empty, and locked onto the lens. Suddenly, the footage glitched. For half a second, the image twisted, like something behind the lens had reached forward and bent the world itself. Then it cut to static. And, through the static, I heard it again. A whisper. But this time, it wasn't Daniel's voice. It was mine. Mark. I dropped the camera. I swear to God, I didn't speak. I hadn't recorded anything. And yet, there was my own voice whispering from inside the video file. The GoPro clattered to the desk. Still recording. Still blinking. I pulled the battery out again, this time smashing it flat against the desk until the light died. But even then, I thought I heard something from the empty shell of the camera. A breath. I filed a report. Officially, I blamed it on hardware failure and stress. Unofficially, I knew I was in deep. That man in the coffin, Daniel, he had changed during that footage. He started human, ended wrong, twisted, like something had gotten into him. Or maybe, and this scared me more, maybe the footage itself wasn't static. Maybe it was still happening somehow. Shifting, updating itself the more I watched it. A parasite feeding on attention, feeding on me. Later that day, I spoke to Ernest again. The gravedigger looked worse than before, pale, eyes hollow, hands twitching. You brought it back, he muttered. Brought what? He wouldn't answer, just looked at me with glassy eyes and said, It don't want to stay in the ground. It's smarter now. Before I could ask more, he walked away, barefoot, into the mist behind the tombstones. I haven't seen him since. Back at my desk, I reviewed the first file again, frame by frame. At 11:37 into the footage, in the static, I caught something. A shape, not human, long limbs, skin like rotting wax, black holes where eyes should be. It was pressed up against Daniel, almost fused to him in the narrow coffin space. And for a split second, it looked like they were smiling together, like it had become part of him. I shut the file, disconnected the camera, stored it in a separate evidence room, taped it shut, again, but I couldn't unhear that whisper, couldn't unsee that thing. That night, as I stared at my ceiling, I realized something. When Daniel had whispered in that coffin, "It knows you're watching," maybe that wasn't a warning. Maybe it was a command. I haven't slept in 2 days. Every time I close my eyes, I see that man's face, not the fear from the first tape. No, not that. I see the smile from the second one. Slow, wrong, like it didn't belong to him, like it was borrowed. I kept the GoPro in an evidence locker at the far end of the building, wrapped in 2 layers of tape, battery removed, lens covered. But last night, while reviewing my body cam footage, I heard something, a sound in the background, behind my own breathing, a soft, clicking rhythm. I isolated the audio. It matched the sound of the GoPro's lens adjusting focus. It wasn't on. It wasn't supposed to be able to be on. This morning, I couldn't take it anymore. I went back to LaRue Hollow Cemetery. Same spot, same grave. The earth looked fresh, even though no one had touched it since the night I was called. I dug. I don't know why. Compulsion. Curiosity. Something pulled me to do it. And that's when I found it. Under the disturbed soil. Buried just beneath where the coffin had been was a flat slab of blackened wood. Ancient. Vet. Covered in rot. But clearly carved. At the center was a symbol. It looked like a spiral, but not quite. Like it was trying to spin inward and outward at the same time. Around it were scratch marks, dug in by human nails, some still embedded in the grooves. Blood soaked into the wood, long dried, but unmistakable, and at the bottom corner, barely visible. A line of text in the same whispering language from the video. Dormila, G.H. Rath Veth. I took a photo. I wish I hadn't. When I got back to the station, I found the lights flickering in the evidence room. The camera, the one I destroyed, unplugged, taped, and sealed, was on. The screen was black, but text had appeared. Not part of the system, not firmware, just text floating on the screen. You opened it. The file list had changed again. There was now a third video, 0003. Mepe Batru. I backed it up, put it on a clean laptop not connected to any network. No power source, just a battery. And I watched. Daniel again. But different. He was no longer struggling. He sat in the coffin like it was his home. Calm. His hands folded neatly. Dirt still fell in from above, but he paid no mind. He was speaking again. The door was never locked. The dead are not quiet. They speak through watchers. He looked up, as if sensing me, and then the view shifted. The camera, somehow, turned to show the underside of the coffin lid. There was the same symbol I found underground, burned into the wood, but now it glowed faintly red. As Daniel spoke, the symbol began to bleed. Real blood. Thick. Slow. And then something pounded on the lid from outside. Once. Twice. 3 times. And Daniel smiled. "It's not coming in," he said. "You're coming down." I slammed the laptop shut. My vision spun. I vomited in the trash can under my desk. This wasn't just video. This was a transmission, a ritual, a message meant for me, maybe anyone. But the more I watch, the more I feel it binding to me, like I'm being trained or prepared. That night, I saw a figure at the end of my hallway. No face, no eyes, but its head tilted like it was watching me back. I fire my weapon. Empty hallway. Back at the station, I reviewed the GoPro footage frame by frame again. One frame, just one, showed something I hadn't seen before. Me, standing behind Daniel in the coffin, eyes glowing red. They say the dead can't lie. I'm starting to think that's bullshit. I ran Daniel LeBlanc's name through every missing persons database we had. One hit, age 34, local school teacher, disappeared October 1st. Wife reported him missing. No criminal record. Nothing strange. A clean life, on paper. But something about the footage kept gnawing at me. He wasn't just trapped. He was waiting, like he knew, like he wanted it. I paid a visit to his home the following morning. A pale blue one-story house just off Parish Road 18. His wife, Celeste, opened the door. Tired eyes, thin frame. She hadn't slept properly in weeks. She let me in without a word. The house smelled faintly of cloves, dust, and something sour beneath it all. Photos lined the mantel. Daniel with his students. Daniel at the bayou. Daniel smiling. Too human for the thing I saw in the coffin. He'd been acting distant, Celeste said, clutching a mug that had long gone cold. Talking to himself. Always scribbling in that damn notebook. I thought it was stress. And then the smell started. Smell. She nodded. From the basement. He kept it locked. Said it was for a project. I stopped asking. She gave me the key. The stairs creaked. The basement door was heavy. Cold to the touch. The moment I opened it, something hit me. Like the air had been trapped down there for decades. Thick. Old. Full of mildew. Iron. Blood. The light flickered once. Twice. Then steadied. The room below was small. A single desk. Shelves lined with books in no language I recognized. Jars filled with dark liquid. Some containing things I didn't want to describe. One looked like an eye. Still twitching. At the center was a circle drawn in chalk. Around it were symbols, identical to the one on the coffin. On the desk lay a leather-bound journal. I picked it up. First page. The one beneath does not sleep. It listens. It learns. Flipping through, I found dozens of pages of symbols, sketches, and notes in frantic handwriting. One sketch chilled me. A coffin viewed from above. Inside were two figures. One clearly human. The other long-limbed, eyeless, mouth open and whispering. And beneath it, a scrawled caption. I won't be alone when I die. I turned to the last page. A passage was repeated over and over in Daniel's handwriting, becoming shakier each time. It comes through the dirt. It comes through the screen. It comes through the eyes. A loud bang echoed behind me. I spun, gun drawn. Nothing, but something had moved. A jar that had been on the top shelf was now on the floor, cracked open. Inside was a human tongue, blackened and shriveled, but twitching. I backed up, my boots slipping in a puddle of something warm. On the wall, written in smeared red. You shouldn't have come here. I took the journal, bagged it, and left. Celeste was waiting at the top of the stairs. Did he leave something behind? She asked. I didn't know how to answer. She looked past me, eyes unfocused. I sometimes still hear him down there, she whispered. Laughing, whispering, scratching at the walls. I've started dreaming of coffins, Officer Boudreaux. Except, I'm not in them. I'm watching, from inside the dirt. That night, I reviewed the journal again. One entry stood out, scribbled like a warning. If you see the symbol, it sees you back. If you say the name, it hears. If you record it, it follows. My hands were trembling. I looked over at the GoPro, still sealed in its box, battery gone, screen dark. But as I stared, I heard it. A click, then a whisper. Rith Thack. I didn't press play. I didn't touch anything. But I swear to God, the camera turned itself toward me. The grave had no name. No headstone. No record. Just an empty space in the oldest part of LaRue Hollow Cemetery. Overgrown, choked with vines, as if nature itself was trying to forget it. But forgetting doesn't erase evil. It only buries it. After what I saw in Daniel's basement, I couldn't sleep. I returned to the gravesite the next morning, armed with records, gloves, and a camera I swore I'd never use again. But I needed answers. And the earth was already loose, like it wanted to be opened. I dug, and halfway down, I found something. Not a coffin, not bones. A book, wrapped in oilskin, bound with twine, buried alone, 6 feet under. I took it back to the station and cut it open. Inside were handwritten pages, brittle with age, stained with what looked like wax and blood. Dates, 1837 to 1841. Location, LaRue Hollow Township. And names, pages of them, each followed by the same phrase. Witness to the binding. The entries weren't in English or French, but I recognized the structure, ritual text, until one page was translated in red ink. A confession. We made a pact. The thing in the ground would stay as long as it was fed. Not flesh, not blood, but presence. Memory, fear. We chose one, every 70 years. Not to die, to hold it. There were sketches, the symbol again, this time etched into a man's chest. A coffin with chains, buried beneath the swamp. A figure with no eyes, towering behind a kneeling priest. The townspeople surrounded them, heads bowed. The next few pages were destroyed, burned away. But one note remained, carved into the inside of the back cover. Do not dig. Do not watch. Do not speak the name. Underneath it, scratched in with something sharp. Rith Thack sees in reverse. I didn't understand it. Not yet. I called in favors. An old historian friend from Baton Rouge sent me a letter from 1842, never officially archived. It detailed the disappearance of an entire family in LaRue Hollow. The town records had marked it as consumed by swamp water, but the letter said otherwise. They were offerings to seal what we disturbed. We buried it once, but the sound still comes from the soil. I returned to the cemetery that night. Just me and a lantern. The air was still. No insects. No wind. I stood over the grave and listened. I didn't hear whispers. I heard breathing from beneath the earth. Slow, deep, and timed with mine. I dropped the lantern. Light shattered. Darkness swallowed me whole. I backed away, heart pounding, and that's when I saw it. Carved into the back of a nearby headstone, old, cracked, was the symbol. Fresh, dripping, as if it had just been carved. I ran, back to the truck, back to safety, or so I thought. That night, I played the GoPro footage again. One frame stood out, just before Daniel whispered for the last time. Behind him, on the lid of the coffin, written in smear blood, Mark, my name. My name hadn't appeared in the footage before. I checked older versions, rewatched them all. It wasn't there. Now it was. The coffin changed, or the thing inside it did. They didn't bury Daniel. They didn't bury the entity. They buried a vessel. And I just dug up its new one. I started waking up covered in dirt. Not figuratively. Literally. The first time it was just my feet. Muddy. Damp. My bedsheets stained with wet soil. The second time it was under my nails. Packed in. The third time, I woke up outside, standing barefoot, in my backyard, facing the cemetery. I kept telling myself it was sleepwalking. Stress. I'd seen worse. War veterans. PTSD cases. Cops breaking under pressure. But this wasn't pressure. This was pulling like I was being dragged through my dreams into somewhere deeper, somewhere dark and familiar. The voices began 3 nights ago. At first, just Daniel's whisper, then the language, then my own voice, not for me, but inside my head. And last night, I heard something else, something bigger, something ancient. You are open now. You are ready. Lie with us. I tried burning the GoPro. I set it on fire in a steel barrel behind the station. Watched it melt. Crack. Burn. I swear I saw something move inside the flame. But the next morning, it was back, sitting on my desk. No soot. No scorch marks. Still blinking. There was a new file. 0004. Mepe Patru. I didn't play it. Didn't have to. I heard it before opening the file. The whispers came from the speaker. While I was off, Celeste called me at 2:12 a.m. Her voice was shaking. I saw him. Daniel? Yes. No. I don't know. He was standing at the end of the hallway. Not moving, but there was something around him, like air bending. And then, he pointed at the basement. At the circle, Mark had started glowing. I went there. Of course I did. The circle in the basement was lit faintly. Not like a bulb, but like heat without light. As if something was pulsing beneath it. There was a smell. Not rot. Not blood. Something old. Like grave moss soaked in static. I stared too long. I saw faces inside the chalk. Not drawings. Actual faces. Twisting under the floor. And they were smiling at me. That night, I locked every door. Covered every mirror. But mirrors don't stop whispers. The voice came again. Clearer. Dig deeper. Lie down. We want our eyes, Mark. I looked up at the ceiling. A drip of blood fell onto my forehead. I shot up, flashlight shaking. There, written across the ceiling in blood, smeared by fingers or claws, was, I see inwards. It was still dripping. I called Sayers, my captain. I told him everything. He thought I was cracked. Ordered me to take time off. Get counseling. I was relieved. Until he called back 30 minutes later. Mark, I just got your report from 2 days ago. Did you send me a copy of the footage? Because I just heard you whispering. He paused. Except it wasn't in English. He hung up. I haven't heard from him since. The next morning, every mirror in my house was shattered. Not broken from the outside, from within. Glass shards scattered around one thing. A small wooden box. Identical to the one Daniel kept in the basement. On the lid, the symbol. Carved in with what I swear were teeth. Inside the box, a roll of old 8mm film. No label. No explanation. And taped to it was a note. Even before the GoPro, it was watching. I haven't slept. I don't think I can anymore. My body feels like a coffin being prepared. My head feels like it's filled with soil. And when I close my eyes, I don't see blackness. I see the symbol. Spinning. Calling me down. I found his name buried in a county census from 1953. Elias Thorne. Age then, 12. The record had a note next to it. Witness to Hollow Night. No follow-up. No school records. No death certificate. But a P.O. box still existed. Somewhere deep in the Atchafalaya Basin. I took the truck out at dawn. Fog rising off the bayou like breath from the dead. Locals said Elias lived alone. Built his house on an island of swamp mud and bones. They called him Ghost Mouth. Said he spoke to animals and forgot how to blink. Took me 3 hours by boat. What I found was worse than I expected. His shack stood half sunk, leaning like it wanted to fall back into the water. Strings of animal bones hung from the porch like wind chimes. The door was open. Inside, the air stank of rust and wet skin. Elias sat in a wooden chair, staring at a wall covered in symbols burned into it with heat. The same spiral, over and over. His skin looked like bark left in the sun too long. He didn't blink. You brought it with you, he said before I spoke. The camera? No, he rasped. The knowing. That's all it takes. He coughed, wet and deep. Spit something into a bowl. It moved. I didn't ask what it was. I asked him what he saw back then. What happened the night of Hollow Night? He smiled. No teeth left. It wasn't a night. It was a hole in the night. We didn't bury it to kill it. We buried it to sleep. We fed it memory, gave it a name, and forgot it. That's how it stays gone. But now, he leaned closer. Now you remembered. He stood, bones cracking like dried branches, and pointed to a chest in the corner. Inside, a ceremonial mask made of stitched skin, a knife shaped like a spine, and a vial of black liquid that shimmered like oil. The first vessel took it willingly. We sealed him with the tongue of a liar and the blood of a mourner. The circle we drew was incomplete. Something slipped through, and it waits. I asked him what the entity was, what it wanted. He said nothing, just turned and traced the symbol on the wall with a shaky finger. Then whispered, "It doesn't want to be seen. It wants to be remembered. And more people who remember, the more pieces it grows back." Suddenly, the symbols on the wall began to glow faintly red. The air shifted. Pressure built in my ears. Elias collapsed, blood pouring from his mouth. He clutched my wrist. "It's in the footage. It's in you." He looked up, eyes clouding. And then he screamed, "Close your eyes, Mark." The window shattered. The shack pulsed, just once like a heartbeat. Then silence. Elias was gone. No body, no blood on the floor. Just his chair, still rocking, and a single word carved into it. RITHDHAK. I made it back to town by nightfall, but I wasn't alone. There were footprints in the boat, wet besides mine. That night, I replayed video 0004.mp4. The coffin was no longer shut. It was open, and Daniel was gone. Only the symbol remained, spinning on the screen. At the edge of the frame, a hand. Not Daniel's. Mine. The moon over the bayou that night was yellow. Not golden. Not soft. Yellow like rot. Like something dead inside the sky. The GoPro had turned on by itself again. Not in my house this time. Outside. On the passenger seat. Facing me. It had a new file. 0005.mp4. No title. Just a timestamp. 11:59 p.m. Exactly 5 minutes from a moment I was staring at it. I grabbed my flashlight, my weapon, the old journal, and drove. Back to LaRue Hollow. One last time. The cemetery was silent. Not the peace of mind kind. The kind of silence that feels like something holding its breath. My boots sank into the soil. The old grave, the unmarked one, was open again. Empty, but not still. Inside was a spiral of blood. Still wet. Still moving. As I stepped closer, the wind died, and the circle of blood rippled, like ink in water. The GoPro in my bag began recording on its own. Then, the air collapsed. I fell. Not far. Maybe inches. But it felt like I fell into the ground, like gravity flipped inside out. When I opened my eyes, I wasn't in the graveyard anymore. I was in a chamber. Earthen walls. Roots hanging like veins. And in the center, a coffin suspended by chains, slowly turning. Daniel stood beside it. Naked. Skin pale, thin like paper soaked in oil. His mouth was stitched shut, but the voice still came. "You came home. We're glad. You were the last circle." I raised my gun. Didn't matter. It clicked empty. Daniel stepped aside, and the coffin opened. It wasn't empty. It was breathing. The thing inside had no face. Only a dozen mouths across its body, each whispering something different. Some in Latin. Some in screams. One my voice. "Lie down, Mark. You're already in." It never needed a body. It needed a witness. The GoPro floated into the air, suspended like by strings. Recording. It turned toward me. The red light blinked. Then the spiral appeared again, this time in the air, on the ground, inside my eyes. I couldn't blink, couldn't scream. The mouths began to chant. The spiral burned into my vision. Then, I saw it, not with my eyes, but with memory. The first vessel, the priest, the townsfolk, the generations who had fed its silence, the ones who lied to keep it sleeping. But I opened it. I named it. The floor of the chamber cracked. From beneath, a second coffin rose. Open, waiting. Inside it, me, already lying still, already smiling. I fell to my knees and whispered, "What do you want?" The voice answered, "A place, a name, you." I woke up gasping, but not from breathlessness, from dirt. My mouth was full of soil, thick, wet, tasting like copper and rot. I clawed up, hands raw, until I broke the surface and realized I was back in the cemetery. It was morning. The air was still, too still. I staggered to my feet. My boots were missing, my hands bleeding, my chest branded with something I couldn't see, but felt burning. I limped to my truck. It was right where I left it. GoPro on the seat, screen blinking. 0006.mp4. Playback? I didn't press anything. It played itself. This time, the video wasn't Daniel. It wasn't me. It was everyone. A montage of faces throughout time. Grainy, flickering, men, women, children all whispering the same phrase. Rithak sees through remembering. Some were in graveyards. Some in bedrooms. Some in front of mirrors. One of them was my mother. She was holding me as a baby, whispering the same words. I dropped the camera, ran, to the station, to records, to truth. I pulled files, newspapers, obituaries, Folgeton archive. I traced back every 70 years. 2022, 1952, 1882, 1812. Always someone went missing. Always in LaRue Hollow. But what I hadn't noticed before, each person was a witness. Journalists, priests, grave diggers, historians, cops. They didn't just disappear. They were replaced. I opened Daniel's journal again. The ink was fresh, even though I hadn't touched it. A new page had appeared. The witness is always chosen before he knows it. The spiral is memory, and memory is infection. It was not born. It was remembered into being. That night, I tried deleting the footage. All of it. Erased the SD card. Smashed the GoPro. But as I turned off the lights and stared into the darkness, the screen of my TV turned on. No input. Just static. Then a face. Mine. I blinked. The screen showed me inside a coffin. Scratching. Bleeding. Screaming. And someone unseen standing above, filming. The camera panned up to their face. It was Mark, but older. Eyes dark. Smiling. It wasn't a dream. It was a loop. A memory. A roll. I tried to call someone. Anyone. Phone dead. I ran to the mirror. DarkFiction. Only the symbol. Spinning slowly. Behind me, I heard a whisper. You were always meant to come back. I collapsed. And in that moment, that sliver of clarity, I saw it all. We don't pass it to each other. We awaken it together. Every time we speak of it. Every time we record. Every time we try to forget. We're just its voice box. And now, it wants to be more. It wants to live in every memory. Every screen. Every eye. The camera clicks on. No intro. No music. No timestamp. Just static. Then a room. Small. Dusty. Empty shelves. The lens pans shakily. It's Mark's house. The living room is abandoned. Dust coats everything. One table. One journal. Blank pages. On the walls, symbols. Spiral after spiral, scratched into the paint. Like done in a frenzy, or by someone who forgot they already did it. The camera walks down a hallway. A door stands open. A faint hum echoes from within. It sounds familiar. like whispers layered over electricity. The door opens to a basement. Steps creak. The light flickers. The camera moves slowly, too slowly. You can hear breathing. Not from the person holding the camera. From beneath. In the center of the floor, a circle drawn in dried blood. Fresh handprints surround it. And in the middle, the GoPro. Recording. Red light blinking. The camera leans down, picks it up, and as the lens turns toward the holder, it shows no one. No sado. No DarkFiction. The camera is recording someone who isn't there. Audio glitches. A voice emerges. Marks. Flat. Faint. But inside your ears. Not from the speaker. If you're watching this, it's already with you. We don't die. We document. Rithak sees through the lens. And now the lens is yours. The spiral appears on screen. Spinning slowly. Then faster. It blurs. Until you're not sure whether the screen is pulsing or your own heartbeat is. One final frame. Just one. You. Sitting in front of the screen. Staring. Mouth slightly open. Eyes wide. A red dot blinking on your forehead. Recording. The above story is completely untrue. I'll just bring you a story to relax your mind before going to bed. If you find it interesting, don't forget to like. Subscribe to the channel to receive notifications about upcoming videos as soon as possible. Thank you, everyone. See you in the next video.